Welcome to the People Leaders Podcast, the audio resource for managers and business leaders creating high-performing teams. Join leadership and team development experts Jan and Michelle Turkelson each week as they explore both subjects from every angle. Through practical tips, valuable insights, and compelling interviews with leadership experts around the world, you'll learn how to bring out the best in your staff and how to give your best as a leader.
Hello, Michelle.
Hello. Feeling very good today.
Great, good. All right, so we have a wonderful guest on that I'm going to introduce you. His name is Tony Martignetti. He just coached me into how to say that. So thank you, Tony. Tony is a coach, entrepreneur and a ideas man, and what he is known for is helping leaders navigate through change and unlocking their potential. And he does this through one of the processes he calls honest conversations. And who doesn't want to navigate through change at the moment, because that's what we're all trying to manage. Now, before his life as a coach, he was a finance and strategy professional with experience working with some of the world's leading science companies. And he's also managed small businesses. He's run a financial consulting company. So, you know, he brings such a breadth and a depth of experience to his coaching. And throughout his coaching career, he became known for supporting leaders in finding clarity. And this is a springboard for them to be energized, unstoppable, and leading with a strong presence. And that's exactly what leaders need right now in this time. So welcome, Tony.
Thank you so much. I'm so thrilled to be here.
Oh, great. Oh, there's so much to talk about. So this is a little bit of a selfish question, Tony, and that is, well, like us, you are a coach, and we don't have coaches on very often, do we? But what I'd like to know is, what do you like or love about being a coach?
Ooh, I love that question because for me, it's been so amazing to get into the coaching world because I love seeing people to go through the change, to see them come alive and to really see them, you know, to change right before your eyes. There's that moment where it's almost like they're starting to breathe deeper than they ever have before. And that realization that they can, and they have the capacity to go deeper, not just into themselves, but they can breathe out even stronger than they have. That analogy of deeper breath, is something that really is helpful for me to show the power of what coaching is for me. It's a deeper breath.
Oh, wonderful.
What a lovely description.
Oh, beautiful description. And it's almost like both the coach and the coachee get something from this process. Like, what joy do you get from seeing when someone goes, oh, I've never thought about it like that, or they're really motivated about moving forward in some aspect of their lives, and you see them changing. That's a gift for both the coach and the coachee. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So when you do coach, Tony, what do you see as the biggest challenge for leaders, especially at the moment when they're managing change?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing right now is this like feeling of there's no control over the external environment. And this lack of security, you know, there's no sense of security. And it is a challenge, not just in like for individuals, but also as people come together and they work on teams. I work a lot with like psychological safety, and, you know, people don't tend to feel safe to speak up in teams, especially virtually. That's a real challenge. But I think right now, because there's maybe no end in sight as to when does everything settle for, you know, economic, the challenges ahead. There's going to be a lot of ripple effects from the pandemic that we're going to be dealing with. But there's also an element of that's always the challenge for people. Uncertainty is necessary. In fact, uncertainty is a part of the game.
Yeah, you're right. So when you talk about psychological safety, because we so are on the same page with this, it's kind of the foundation of, you know, creating a high-performing team. Yeah. What's something that you could share with our listeners? So if you're a leader of a team, or you're a team member, how do we create psychological safety?
Yeah, virtually now.
Yeah, especially virtually. Part of it is ensuring that you start with the basis of trust. I think that you can't have someone feel like they're part of a team, like they're part of something, unless you start with an element of making sure that they have some sense of trust, that the leader shows that they are part of, building that element of trust. And then also showing people as full humans, full people in their organization, not just showing up to do a job, but also that you care about them as a whole person. So that element of caring is what starts to build on that element of, I want to see you as a whole person, both, your flaws and your ability to bring amazing potential of what you have in you. So a lot of sharing. I mean, especially virtually right now, it's just making sure you're checking in with people and saying, how are you? No, really, how are you? Not just like on the surface, but how are you really? And then ensuring that each person has a chance to check in and share their voice.
And I really like that idea about showing, that element of caring, that you care, because then you can create a question. So how did I demonstrate that I care about my team or my, the people that I lead? And then as a team member, how did I show that I cared with my colleagues today? Yeah. Thank you. That's good.
So, Tony, you were just talking about caring, and Jan asked a question. It's like, she must be in my head, we're twins. But, this caring, kindness and concern is something that we're seeing show up again and again and again in teams that are riding this wave of uncertainty, well, when their manager shows a real, care and concern for their well-being as a whole. And so, you hit the nail on the head in terms of our experience of that as well. So another question I was interested in was this notion of clarity. And when leaders do find clarity and they get that aha moment, there's such a certainty of direction that, you know what I mean, that true north that they get. What is the process that you use, or can you sort of give us some insight as to how you do that, help them find clarity? Yeah,
I mean, there's really no prescribed way that you would each person, but there's one thing that's been coming up lately a lot, and it has to do with this paradox around expanding your vision to narrow your focus. And I love this because whenever I talk to people who have I can't seem to see the path forward, or I'm stuck in these patterns of this is the way it is, I always tell them well, if you step back and you expand your field of vision, maybe look at it from a different lens, expand your vision, and then once you see all the possibilities are in front of you, and you choose a path from all those options, and then you narrow your focus so that you can say, this is what I'm going to execute on, and that's what I'm going to do right now, and that's where I really put my energy towards. So you don't try to get paralyzed by all the options available to you. It's kind of like the old adage of you are staring at a wall and you think the wall is impossible to overcome. Well, if you step back, you might see that the wall is only, 5 feet tall, and it's only 5 feet wide. So you can either walk around it, step above it, but you need to see that field of view before you give up.
Yeah, we have that expression in Australia, you can't see the forest for the trees.
Yeah.
Very similar. And we liken that to going general, when you are bogged down in a problem or an issue, what can you do to go general? And I love that, expanding your vision, then to narrow your focus. And then, just choose one and make that the right one until it's not.
And pivot, if something is not the right path, you can pivot and make changes. But ultimately, it's about choosing a path that will be a way to move forward.
Yeah, thank you.
So you have a podcast called Campfire Podcast. Can you tell us a little bit about that, and who do you hope to reach on the podcast?
Yeah. So it's actually called the Virtual Campfire. And the whole idea behind it, originally it was intended for people to all attend at once. It was like a group event. And before you know it, it became a podcast. The power of it is really around bringing people on who have been through a transformation and to share their tales of transformation. I focus on what are called flashpoints. They're points in people's story that have ignited their gift to the world. Now, people have multiple flashpoints. Sometimes it comes out of trauma. Sometimes it comes out of just not feeling lit up by what you're doing. So many different things that arise. And one of the lessons, before I tell you who this is for, really, one of the lessons that I've learned so far, I've actually recorded about 56 episodes already. I've only posted about 20. I've learned that the power of your past, if you embrace it and you really own it, can propel you very powerfully forward. And the reason why I say that is because everyone that comes on, there's a kernel about their future, about their childhood that is really an inkling of who they become in the long run. And you just got to look for that pattern, that theme, and uncover it. So anyways, and then this is for the audience, really, is the people who are maybe stuck and not really sure what steps to take on that, path of transformation. So just by hearing the stories of some of these people who are really amazing, they're able to move forward in their process. So there's a lot of insights, a lot of great stories that are really relatable. And I'm hoping that just by sharing these stories, people can really make some amazing things happen in their lives. So
yeah, isn't that lovely? Like looking at your past in terms of it powering your future, as opposed to bogging you down in the memory of your past, and you're actually using it for good. Yeah, I love that idea. Very good.
And it also balances nicely with a lot of the work that we do with Carl Jung's psychological type. He suggests that people are born into the world with a certain, characteristics and preferences. And then it's actually looking at what are those strengths that I actually have in my life, and then continue to focus on those. And, that's what you're discovering through your podcast. Have you got an example of a story that impacted you significantly?
Yeah, I would say one of them that was recent was sharing the story of a woman by the name of Anne Brennan, who was an Iron woman. She was at the top of her game, competing in Ironman competitions, and her son was suicidal, and that impact of having her son in that place, very dark place, she ended up getting herself in that place as well. She felt like very suicidal, and she was in a psych ward. So she went from being at the top of her game to being in the psych ward. And very emotional story. The amazing thing of it is that in that darkest place, she was able to rise up and see that her gift was going to be helping others to raise their voices and to prevent suicide. And so she started a huge foundation around helping to prevent suicide, but also she has a digital marketing company that helps people to raise their voices, to give voice to the voiceless, as we talked about, which I really love, because I think that's really a powerful way to bring your business about. And she's doing it in both fronts, both on the suicide prevention, but also with the digital marketing. So
that's wonderful. Yeah, because what you're describing is that post-traumatic growth that people move through.
Yeah, and just hearing that, one of the things I just wanted to mention on that is that the most pressing point of that whole conversation was that that people who are dealing with this are not alone, and there's so many people who feel that, and if we can pass that message on through that platform, that if you're feeling like this, hey, you're not alone. There's so many people who you can just talk to. So anyways.
Oh, wonderful. So, Tony, what are you working on at the moment that you'd like to share with us?
Ooh, I got a lot happening these days. So one of them is I'm starting to write my book. I shouldn't say I'm starting. I've already started. It's a book called Are You Climbing the Right Mountain? A Journey to Transformation. And it's really about people who have climbed the mountain that they thought they were supposed to climb. And they get to the top and they realize, hey, this is not really worth the climb. I've, sacrificed everything in my life, my health, my family, whatever it may be. And, what can I do to change that? And so the book's a lot about, different ways to change the mountain you're climbing, or even to look for clues along that path to know whether whether you're on the right mountain. So I love this whole idea, and it's been interesting to kind of come together with this. And the other thing I'm working on, sorry?
Oh, I'd love to just, can you share a couple of clues about that? So if I'm striving, thinking that that's my mountain, and what are some of those?
Yeah. So if you're climbing the mountain and you're feeling as though you can't wait to get to the top, and there's this element of you just not really, you're going to go through struggles. There's always going to be an element of like growth is not easy, but it should be rewarding in its own sake. And there's an element of like, if you're not feeling that, and it's just about, God, I just want to get to the top. Well, when does the next thing happen? Because I just can't stand what I'm doing right now. That's just a clue that you might be on the wrong mountain. There's a lot of things that are signs and symptoms, even physical symptoms. If you're finding yourself like constantly drained by the end of the day, not wanting to go into work, there's a sign. There's something going on for you that tells you this may not be it. Don't be looking at societal clues, because society paints a certain picture and we all kind of pick up on that. And we have to realize that success is not an external thing. It's internal. It's easier said than done, but we have to really change that picture for ourselves to say, what do I want? What do I truly need? Is it the financial reward, or do I just want to be happy?
Yeah, I'll take that. And that's the power of coaching. I feel that is the power of coaching, is people might not have that support in their friendships or in their family relationships that afford them the safety and the non-judgmental space in order to explore those different options. And so, I think another gift that coaching brings, which sort of brings us full circle actually in our conversation.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say about that's why I always talk about deeper conversations or honest conversations, because I think it's so important to really ask the questions that you never answer. The ones that, are plaguing you throughout all your life. Like, who am I? What do I really stand for? What am I a rebel for? Those things that you often hear, but you never really sit and ask yourself these questions. And when you start to really ask them on a deeper level, magic happens.
Yeah. And what an invitation to people who are listening now is to take some time to reflect and ask those questions, who am I? What do I really want? What's important to me? And what am I a rebel? What am I a rebel for? I wrote it down. Yeah, I'm going to put that in my toolkit if that's okay, Tony. That's fabulous.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for sharing your insights with us and some of the things that you've been working on. I'm going to put your virtual podcast, your virtual Campfire podcast on my playlist as we speak now, and I'm going to listen to it as I drive down to pick up my mum for the weekend. So
fantastic.
Yeah. All right. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks, Tony.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the People Leaders Podcast with Michelle and Jan Turkelson. For show notes and other free resources, please visit us at peopleleaderspodcast.com. Do you know someone else who could benefit from cutting-edge leadership and management techniques? Please take a moment to share this and other episodes via your podcast app, email, or social media channels. Each share helps us fulfill our goals of reducing workplace stress and increasing job satisfaction for leaders, managers, and their teams worldwide. The People Leaders Podcast is brought to you by the Experts On Air Podcast Network.